She inherited $20 million from the rifle that conquered the American West, but Sarah Winchester did not spend it on mansions or fame. She spent it turning grief and guilt into a labyrinth that never stopped growing. By the time she died, her fortune was cemented in 161 rooms, stairways to nowhere, and doors that defied reason. Was this building frenzy a curse, a confession, or an act of defiance from a woman America could not understand? To answer that, we need to follow the money, the losses, and the legend that begins where the official story ends. Factories in New Haven, Connecticut, once echoed with the steady clatter of assembly lines, turning out Winchester rifles by the hundreds of thousands. The Model 1873, known as the gun that won the West, became a symbol of American expansion and violence, a tool for settlers, lawmen, outlaws, and armies alike. By the late 19th century, Winchester Repeating Arms Company had sold nearly 750,000 of these rifles, and the company's advertising turned the family name into legend. Each rifle carried the promise of power and the shadow of loss, as the weapons enabled both defense and destruction across the continent. The wealth generated by this industrial empire was staggering. When William Wirt Winchester died in 1881, his widow Sarah inherited a fortune estimated at $20 million, an amount that would exceed $600 million today. She also received a 50% stake in the company, earning her approximately $1,000 a day in dividends, or the modern equivalent of $30,000 every single day. These were not just numbers on a ledger, but the proceeds of a business built on the relentless demand for firepower. For indigenous communities and those caught on the frontier, the Winchester rifle represented more than innovation. It was a force that reshaped lives and erased boundaries. The company's reach extended into every corner of the American West, and its profits flowed into the Winchester family coffers with each sale. This was the legacy Sarah Winchester inherited. A fortune inseparable from the machinery of conquest and the moral questions that followed. Sarah Lockwood Pardee Winchester entered adulthood with every advantage: education, family, and a promising future. But on July 25, 1866, her life changed forever. Her only child, Annie Pardee Winchester, died just 40 days after birth. The cause was marasmus, a wasting illness that left the infant too weak to survive. The loss shattered Sarah. For nearly a decade, she lived in the shadow of her daughter's absence, gripped by a depression so deep that friends and doctors worried she might never recover. Years later, just as she began to rejoin the world, tragedy struck again. On March 7, 1881, her husband William Wirt Winchester died of tuberculosis at the age of 43. The disease moved slowly, draining his strength over months, and Sarah watched helplessly as the man she had married in New Haven faded away. She became a widow and a mother without a child in the span of 15 years. Victorian mourning customs prescribed black clothing, drawn curtains, and social withdrawal. But for Sarah, grief was not just a matter of outward ritual. It became the architecture of her days. The world she once knew, filled with music, conversation, and hope, closed in around her. With each loss, the walls seemed to press tighter. The future that had once seemed secure was now uncertain, and the fortune she inherited felt inseparable from sorrow. In that silence, the seeds of her next chapter quietly took root. Sarah Winchester arrived in California with the power to shape her world as she saw fit. In 1886, she purchased an 8-room farmhouse set on 161 acres outside San Jose for around $20,000, an enormous sum at the time. From the day she took possession, construction never stopped. She assembled a team of 20 to 22 carpenters, each earning $3 a day, nearly triple the going rate for skilled labor in the region. Their loyalty was rewarded not just by steady pay, but by the promise that the work would never run out. There were no architects, no county permits, and no blueprints. Each morning, Sarah would hand her foreman sketches, drawn on scraps of paper, or even the corner of a napkin. These improvised plans dictated the day's labor, sometimes calling for new rooms, sometimes for tearing out what had just been built. The crew worked in rotating shifts, around the clock, 7 days a week. The rhythm of hammers and saws became the heartbeat of the estate, echoing through unfinished corridors and across the sprawling grounds. Sarah's approach turned her fortune into perpetual motion. The house grew without boundaries or logic, fueled by her instructions and the constant presence of workers who rarely questioned the purpose behind each addition. In this system, the mansion became less a home and more a living project, one that responded to grief, wealth, and the will of a woman who refused to let the past settle. Inside the Winchester house, luxury and bewilderment go hand in hand. Sarah Winchester spared no expense on materials, importing hand-carved woodwork from Austria and ordering custom art glass windows from Tiffany Studios, some costing as much as $2,000 each at the turn of the century. Sunlight catches the stained glass, scattering color across walls that seem to double back on themselves. The house is a labyrinth of extravagance and contradiction. Staircases climb 7 flights, only to dead end into a solid ceiling. Doors open onto sudden drops, with nothing but air on the other side. Windows are set into floors, and cabinets reveal nothing but the backside of another wall. Some fireplaces have no chimneys, while others rise through multiple floors and stop just short of the roof. The number 13 appears everywhere. Chandeliers are altered to hold 13 candles. Sinks are drilled with 13 drain holes, and even the greenhouse is topped by 13 cupolas. These details are not the result of a master plan, but of daily improvisation. Each flourish a puzzle, and every anomaly an invitation to wonder. The house's opulence is inseparable from its riddles, leaving visitors unsure whether they are stepping through a monument to sorrow, superstition, or the restless imagination of its creator. Stories about Sarah Winchester's nightly seances and ghostly instructions first appeared not in her own words, but in the columns of the San Francisco Chronicle on February 24, 1895. That article speculated, without evidence, that she built her sprawling house to ward off death itself. The rumor quickly took on a life of its own. No diaries, letters, or personal records from Sarah Winchester have ever surfaced to confirm that she believed in a curse, consulted a Boston medium, or received spirit guidance for her endless construction. The seance legend, so often repeated in popular tours and ghost stories, rests on a foundation of journalistic curiosity and local gossip, not documented fact. Later embellishments, including tales of a medium named Adam Coons and secret nightly rituals, only gained traction after her death, fueled by those eager to explain the house's strangeness. In the absence of Sarah's own voice, the myth filled the silence, but the historical record remains empty of any supernatural motive. At 5:12 in the morning on April 18, 1906, a violent earthquake tore through the Santa Clara Valley. The Winchester house shuddered as the ground rolled, and when the dust settled, the damage was staggering. The 7-story tower lost its top 3 floors, and nearly 30 rooms collapsed or became structurally unsound. Rather than restore what was lost, Sarah Winchester made a decision that would permanently alter the house's layout. She ordered the ruined sections sealed off, entombing entire wings behind new walls. Hallways that once led to open spaces now ended abruptly in blank partitions. Stairs climbed to nowhere, and doors opened onto bricked-up voids. The practical response to disaster transformed the house into a true labyrinth where logic and flow gave way to confusion and dead ends. What had started as a sprawling but navigable mansion now became a maze, its original design lost beneath layers of adaptation. In the years that followed, these sealed rooms and broken passages became the very features that fueled both legend and curiosity, turning calamity into a permanent mystery. Today, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a monument to unanswered questions. Its fortune is gone, and its purpose is still debated. As tourism and legend blur fact, the house reminds us how easily truth can be lost in myth. What we build to escape the past often becomes what defines our future.